Greetings from Revealing the Hidden. Hope you all are enjoying the sessions on marriage. And today we are going to discuss another level or important need of a marriage, that is communication. A couple who is able to communicate well from the time they start knowing each other until the breath separates them can have a very successful marriage even though they are going together in pain and hurt. Today, let's see what is the importance of communication in marriage, and we have Bonafar and Gary to share the sessions here. Welcome morning to the next session of marriage, and today we are going to discuss regarding communication. Why communication is so important in marriage.
First of all, thank you for having me. I think communication is one of the biggest ways to actually build marriage, and marriage is something that is not just because we have a past, but because we want to have a future with the person. And communication needs to be that joint between the two people, because that's how you'll be able to connect with each other. And I think if communication is not there in marriage, then there will be two individual people living two silent lives, not being able to be connected. There may be unused words, there may be non-verbal communication, but communication will need to be there so that they can actually move from the present to the future. And I think in a marriage where communication is in a healthy level, without having to shout and scream, and without having to let your lungs come to your mouth and let your emotions burst out, that kind of communication is unhealthy communication. But healthy communication is where you think, but your partner thinks before you are able to think. Like, and give an example, like you're thirsty, but your partner gets a glass of water before you even ask, get me some water. That is communication.
What you nicely said. So the communication, according to me, is I may not know you as my spouse, even if in a love relationship or you are dating for a long time. Communication means initial days before you're getting married, you're not seeing the complete side or a 365 angle. You're not seeing. You're seeing only the good aspects of the other person, because I want to give my best to my spouse or my fiancé, so that the other person is not seeing my other side, how I look like if when I become violent or when I'm irritated. That person never understand unless marriage brings that person inside, where my inner circle space I start sharing that. So this time communication is very important, otherwise another person is going to be burned because they really don't know who I am. So this is why we need to know communication. And another word I want to put in communications, it is actually like a vibe. You're allowing the communication has the stagnant water. You're giving a way so that you can flow it out, so that it is not only you are struggling, you're ventilating to the most trusted person who will not give you back anything about the pain what you're going through. That's why you need a communication. Third thing, I'm born and brought up in a different family. My spouse is from a different family. My parents' parenting, and his or her parenting is different, so that we need to come to a conclusion. It's more of a compromise that both parties need to do together, because now you need to be together. So communication plays a huge role. It's not only how you speak.
Correct.
You should speak, but more than what you speak, your non-verbal communication counts. And the way you said the last line, when I become thirsty, my husband is bringing a glass of water, you cannot expect on the first day.
Correct.
It takes time. Actually, that is the real communication. You can see it maybe a 1 or 2 years of successful marriage, whereas your fights, your arguments, everything end up you in shape, and you will understand what is my need without even speaking a word.
Correct.
That is
Correct.
communication.
True.
Anything else to add, Bonnie?
I think communication is also connecting because it's a way where you not just hear the other person out,
Right.
but you also let the other person hear you.
Yes.
So communication is not just about me speaking or me listening, it's also about me expressing. And if I'm not able to express myself in a context of marriage, then my identity gets closed up, it gets clogged, and it also gets it is caged, which means I am not able to live myself. And anybody in any scenario or relationship, if they're not able to express themselves through verbal, non-verbal ways, then they feel caged in the inside, though they may be with a person, though they may be in marriage. So I think communication helps people get out of the cage, the emotional and the mental cage. And also I think communication helps to clear all the unsaid boundaries, like can I do this, can I do this, should we do this, should we do that. When we communicate, many times there are thoughts that I would want the other person to ask first, but because the other person is not asking and you never asked, so nobody asked, but they both were waiting for water they both were thirsty. But then because they did not do communication, they could have just talked about it and they could have gotten over with it. I think communication is also something that helps take both steps forward at the same time. It's not just like waiting on the edge of the river, it's also building a bridge across it and just jumping over. Communication helps you go to the other side of it.
Very nicely said. To conclude, I would like to say one more line for communication is when communication is defined as a two-way process by everyone, whereas public speaking, your expression abilities are sharpened by any person who is training you or coaching you for the same. Marriage is a platform that coach you for listening than
Correct.
speaking, because we need listeners.
Yeah.
Because all are speaking.
All speak.
All want a listening ears, and in marriage, if your ears are sharpened to listen to your spouse, that can be the best marriage you can ever have. And one more thing I want to tell that morning, in marriage you will never get like-minded person. You marry anyone in this world, that person will be extremely opposite. Even if you are in a love affair or live in relationship or whatever, the more you are closer to know the other person, other person is extremely opposite from you. So it's always good to have a listening ear, and the other person learn from you how I'm treating you. So from that person also improve in the communication skill. So the next question what I would like to ask you is it necessary to communicate my past to my spouse before getting into the wedlock?
I think it is important because you are what your past has taught you, and everybody has a past. Whether it is a positive past or whether it is a painful past, whether it is a problematic past or whether it is a past full of pleasures and everything else. But I think the important issue is about the maturity level, because if there is no maturity for the other person, then me being honest and open about my past will only do a lot of damage. If the other person is able to maturely understand where I'm coming from, because my past is important to me, it is what has shaped me. I can never say that my past has not shaped me. It may have given me scars, but it has also shaped me. So for me, that past is important. But if my partner is able to appreciate what has happened to me, and because I am going to be joined with the person, marriage is a place where you don't just get joined to the person, you also expose yourself to the person. And in marriage, everything gets exposed. Eventually everything gets exposed to such a level where your past also, or if the shaping of your past gets exposed, like if somebody has gone through abuse or somebody has gone through good manners at home, all of that gets exposed. Oh, you are so good, oh, you are so this. So in that aspect, I would say past is important. But if somebody has gone through a past which is not so good, then I would advise discretion, I would advise wisdom, because not everybody will be able to digest what you have gone through. But sometimes it is good if you feel that you may be able to express more or not need to express yourself every time, then having your past in a way where the other person can at least assume what you may have gone through. Like if somebody has gone through a very painful past, he or she should not put it on a badge. But at the same time, if the person understands, if the partner understands, oh, you've gone through all this and I need to treat you well, then what happens is the person who has gone through abuse or has gone through a lot of difficulties automatically creates a setup in marriage which becomes a safe place for him or her. So the partner then understands, oh, he or she has gone through maybe addictions or gone through abuse or whatever different things, and then marriage becomes a safe place. Marriage becomes a healing place because there is maturity, there is trust. And yes, I would also say one thing: if maturity is not there, if understanding is not there, and then if you open up everything, it can become like shooting bullets in the dark, and the only person who will get hurt is you, because you opened up the Pandora's box with the light switched off.
Beautifully explained, Bonnie. To add on, I have seen n number of cases, because when someone enters into marriage, especially women, they always try to expose completely to the guy, thinking that I should be genuine and he should know everything. But I would say there is a complete foolishness that person can ever do in their entire life. See, as we were discussing before, the riders of the car keep on changing because initially we were children, we can be undergoing kind of abuse. See, I was abused in my childhood and still it hurt somewhere because the pain what was given to me, I was not even aware about it. But still that scar is there. So seeing the scar, I remember about my past. Then more than that, once I grow up in my immaturity, I might have done so many mistakes. When I become mature also, the situation made me to take decisions or do wrong things what is not acceptable. I cannot expect my spouse to understand everything. He's not Jesus Christ. By the end of the day, he's not Jesus Christ to understand what I had gone through. And tomorrow, when a fight comes up or an argument comes up, everything will come up in the order what I spoke, or much what exaggerated way. I myself will be thinking, oh, he's remembering everything. It can come up after a year or two where I cleared myself and I started my life new. Whereas that person started the first step after 1 year or second. It can be there is no gender bias. I have seen this in every place. So I recommend, especially women usually ask me this question, because men is always wise and they never speak much about their past, where women tell the extent of mistakes they have done. We can tell, yes, something happened, but I would say it's wise to be mum. I know I did not do correct. I can tell them the initial steps. It's not that till Z I need to explain what has happened, so that catastrophe in marriage can be avoided. So this I learned from my life and I've seen and I tell everything. See, mistakes can be done by me in this age. Mistakes can be done at any person even the age of 60 where I witnessed it.
Correct.
But I would say there is a limit that God can forgive, but that limit you cannot compare with man.
True.
No human being is going to forgive for the mistakes what you're doing. It will come out on the day when the fight comes. So I always advise, do not tell. You can tell the name of the person, that I had a crush or I was in a relationship, and tell the initial things. That's fine. It is acceptable. Not to the extremes where whatever steps or how much ever distance you kept the feet, that should be in your heart. Learn to keep yourself concrete, so that you are protecting from any kind of mental harm in the long run.
True, very true.
Yes. Finally, the next question for this session is, how can I improve my communication better in my marriage?
This is something that will take a lifetime. Personally, even irrespective whether you're married or not, one needs to develop their communication skills. It's not just about communicating to maybe a crowd or communicating to your own people or you're in the house, but it's also about how you express yourself, and at the same time how you appreciate people who express themselves. So many times, and when you're talking about marriage especially, there are certain ways. Like one example would be, many times communication is very important when there is a crisis. Communication is very important when there's a conflict. Communication is very important when I want to criticize. communication is very important when there are things that I had goals, I had ambitions, and things fell flat. When I wanted to achieve something and I got defeat. In faces of these unsurmountable challenges, communication is the key to. You may not be able to change the situation, but you'll be able to navigate the storm better. And one of the things is, when there's a fight, or when you realize, or when people realize that in marriage or in relationship, there is going to be rising temperatures. One of the ways is to cool off, is to back off. So one way to cool off is to back off. And back off does not mean that you have accepted what the other person is saying. It just means that it's going nowhere, and where it is going is where you don't want to go. So the second aspect, I think, would be to use positive words, in the sense, even though at the end of the day, and I would say at the end of the day, both husband and wife are one. Both husband and wife are one. If in our body, if one cell fights the other, we call it what? Cancer. We call it cancer, right? Same way in marriage, if communication is not done, it starts becoming what? Cancerous. In the sense that one will start killing the other, but both are in the same one, and that is exactly what kills the marriage. So I would say, if communication is not done correctly, it will kill the marriage, but done correctly, it will celebrate the marriage. So better communication would be where, even though there are crises, even though there are challenges, even though there are areas where I'm not able to come online with the other person, I would like to appreciate, I would like to be positive about it, and think of the brighter side, that it's not about me fighting the other person, it's me and the other person fighting the bigger thing. The bigger picture is very important, and to diffuse and get better in communication is, instead of using you did this, you did that, you had this, you ate this, you finished this thing, it would be better to replace that you with a I. Did I not keep these chocolates for me? And it's over. So rather than putting the blame on the other person, you take the blame and you diffuse the bomb. So the way to do that is use the I statements better, and to put it on yourself and take responsibility. So rather, when you take responsibility, you make the other person aware that there is a gap, and that gap would make the other person hopefully guilty and become good. I know this is a different way, but it diffuses the crisis of fighting, and blaming, and the more better thing is to do is to keep a 5:1 ratio, wherein you start building a positivity bank, where you start seeing positive affirmations, because communication is not just about what you speak, it's also about what the other person hears. Many times I say 10 things, but you'll hear only one thing, and that one thing will be the thing that I did not mean. So I think better communication is about building so many good things, that even if you end up having one thorn in all the Thanksgiving, that thorn will not hurt as much and will not be taken in a wrong way. And anytime you would want to criticize, you have a big bank of positive words. So you have these positive affirmations and statements and celebrations of the other person, that it helps. So one criticism here and there would not hurt as much, because you're celebrating the other person every single time. One big thing I would like to close is that communication is important in the crowd and in the closet, because how you communicate to that person in front of the people is very important, because you're celebrating that person. But I would suggest that better communication is always good when you be open about it in the closet, in your room, where you and the other person is alone, because it's a marriage, and marriage needs to have its boundaries where other people are not invited. And in your closed room, behind closed doors, you discuss what went wrong. But again, use a time, use a frame, not when the other person is not in the space. So create that space and let there be an open ground to understand what went wrong. There are many things, but I think for time constraints, yeah.
You explained very well, Bonnie. I'm thinking I'm the married person and you're not married. You're preaching to me. See, I really wish to talk from my marriage. My marriage, my husband is the person who used to communicate like anything. The moment I go out of the house, he will update me with everything. Whereas once I move out of this house, I don't have any kind of communication till I come back. Then I understood he is very good in communication where I'm not. I trained myself to communicate with him because my husband needs to be communicated on this. So I understood communication can be trained. And at the age of 24, I got married. I took time, but today I learned how much important that I should speak everything to him because he is waiting to listen for my goodness because I'm his wife. Another thing is, as you told, the importance of listening. Another weapon that we need to really understand, even in counseling, is silence is the best communication tool you can have. Unless you clap both hands, there is no fights. So one hand cannot make sound. So there is no need to blame the other person.
Yeah.
You play a role to have this fight or any kind of arguments. So I trained myself when fights going on, either don't speak, I speak so that it will not continue. So we both are experts in that. So whenever there is no fights in this house, only one person yells in this house, either me or him, because the other person keep going. We trained us so that others, the fight goes to a different extent. No one can control. Another point what I learned is to not involve a third party in your marriage.
Yes, very important.
If it's wrong with me, people will support me. Then what happens? The support of the third party becomes a higher degree of enmity towards my husband.
Yes.
It really cracks my relationship with my husband. That person will go tomorrow. I need to stay with my husband till death. So I need to make sure that it may be the mistake of my husband. I'm 100% sure, and I'm witnessed by a third party witnessed it. But make sure that you improve him because you are not going to stay with the third party.
True.
You need to make sure that your husband is improved.
Very true.
Another important thing is two people of extremely opposite character are getting married. If I'm good in singing, my husband may be good in clapping. So we need to understand that both need to be together. Then only singing will be accompanied by the clapping will sound better. So wherever I'm good, my husband is weak. Wherever my husband is good, I'm weak. So we need to learn how to compensate.
True.
And I need to coach my spouse so that he will grow.
Correct.
So I can see the growth of my spouse in my marriage, and I can understand in myself that because of me my husband is growing up, because of me my wife is growing. So
Correct.
this kind of growth can be admitted inside your marriage, and who is seeing this is indirectly communicating your children, and they are going to take these values for their marriage. So this way you can actually improve your marriage. And day before yesterday, I was teaching Keith, and I was so angry the way they were responding to me, and I screamed at them because I couldn't take it because of Enoch. Keith just removed the book and just came and cuddled me, and immediately I melted. Then I understood how dare Keith took to come and hug me. I told her this much is the need even in marriage. If something happens, you go and hug the other person will not open the mouth. This is the importance of cuddling and the love expression in marriage. And submission of spouse to each other is very important. There is no ego clash in marriage. We need to go hand in hand. Whoever is good, the other person is going to be benefited. So learn the basic principles of life. Once we are clear with the principles of marriage is the biggest thing that can support you more than your parents. Because where you are fallen down, your spouse is strong so that she or he can give you the hand so that you can be uplifted. And by God's grace, I witnessed these things in our marriage where I am wrong. My Jones could teach me how to raise her, so that when we talk about marriage, I just laugh because it's not because there is only happiness. Through pain we went through, today I can smile and say, yes, I grew from the pain or the heat what we had gone through. So I think with this we are really overtook the time what's supposed to be. I think communication do a very good job in marriage, and I wish all the couples who are going to get married or in marriage which is struggling with the relationship understand than a physical intimacy, than the beauty or the figure you speak and the media speak about marriage, communication plays an important role. It's not the external appearances keeping you together, it is how well you know your spouse will keep you a better life. What is happening in our parents and the older generation. With this, we are winding up the session. Next week, we are coming with another beautiful session on marriage. Till that, stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.